Alright, so welcome back. And in today's video, we're going to go over the little response that Susie Hunter, aka Sphere Hunter, made on a podcast called The Kojima Frequency. She made a little bit of a response to the Twitter drama that we covered in the last video. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But basically, to sum it up, Susie made a tweet saying that Silent Hill 2 Remake, that she wasn't going to play it. People on Twitter, and then in the Silent Hill community, rather, as well, got upset because of some of the wording of her tweets, and a lot of people thought it came across hypocritical of her to cover the other remakes and praise them while not even giving Silent Hill 2 a chance. That's how a lot of the people were reacting to it. But we'll go over her response in today's video. So let's get into it. I'm going to pick apart the clips that only Susie and maybe the other people in the podcast where they're talking about Silent Hill 2 Remake. If you want to see the rest of the full podcast, go check it out.
After the week you've had, Susie, it's been, just for putting out an opinion on Twitter. I mean, who would have thought it would have went the way it did?
It's, I'm honestly, like, really baffled about it, like, just thinking about it. Like, there was an article written about how right I am, you know?
I was just reading that.
So I've read some of this article that she referred to and talked about. The first part of the article reads, "Gamers are hypocrites when it comes to remakes and remasters. We constantly critique developers and publishers in the AAA landscape for refusing to try something new. We are also such transparent slaves to our own nostalgia." I honestly don't agree with this statement, as there were definitely people going into Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster that did not like the voice acting for the game, and they did not like the character model redesigns, and they chose not to buy the Deluxe Remaster. There's also a good point about the Until Dawn remake, a remake that I will say was not needed, because that game, I would say, is not old enough to deserve a remake. I do think that remakes are important, but the way that Sony has been doing remakes is completely not necessary. But Until Dawn remake, many people have been pointing out the game does not look good and the original looks better. I don't think that people are slaves to nostalgia, but I do agree that gamers want new ideas, new creative IP, new games. But I don't think it's fair to completely rule out remakes and act like remakes don't deserve a place. Because if a remake is good enough, it deserves its right to exist.
On, like, Twitter or, like, obviously the Silent Hill Reddit, like, it's really negative. Really, I don't mind, Like, I haven't lost any sleep over this, so... But yeah, it's just, I feel like I've been saying this for, like, over a year at this point, but no one's actually been listening to me. But when I say it about Silent Hill 2 Remake, for some reason, then it's a problem. It's like, what? Like, why?
Well, that's what happens when you criticize a sacred cow.
I see.
Again, to state the same point, I think the reason why people got annoyed is because Susie made content on Resident Evil remakes and Dead Space remakes and made videos on those games while not giving a chance for Silent Hill Remake to give her impressions and maybe change her opinion after playing the game and give that perspective on YouTube.
Which is fucking strange to me, because if I recall correctly, we were all very like circling the wagon when those dog shit Western Silent Hill games came out, and now we get this remake. I thought people would have the same, like, at the very least, cautious optimism as a result of that shit, and yeah, people have just been going like fucking what you said, Susie, which is valid. You're tired of a trend, and you're as somebody in a tweet said, responding to stimuli. You have a right to change your fucking mind. It's fucking unbelievable.
So I would like to point out that earlier this year, we had a state of play where Silent Hill 2 Remake gameplay was revealed. The internet's reaction online was very negative. A lot of people said that this looked very rough, this looked very bad. The shooting whenever James shot the pistol, it sounded really awful. Majority of the reactions online to the first showcase of the gameplay was that this looks not good. Bloober Team getting their hands on Silent Hill 2 was a mistake. But then, later on, there was more trailers that came out towards, like, the end of the year, and people started to change their minds about it. And then they had another gameplay trailer where it looked like they actually had kind of fixed the game, and they were improving it, and they were making it better. And fast forward to today, and the game has really strong reviews, both from critics and audiences. The point is that people can 100% change their minds on things, and there were people that were very critical of the game and criticized the way it looked in the beginning, but some of that slowly started to change, and I would say the audience and the people on the internet were cautiously optimistic about the game and excited to see that Bloober Team was listening to them on the feedback and making changes. But I do want to bring up this tweet from my last video that I compiled all the tweets together. And then she stated, no one is ever brave enough to actually stick to their beliefs online. Yes, people were really annoyed that it was Bloober Team making it, but the fact that it exists at all is enough for modern consumers to blindly consume it, even if it conflicts with their morals. The same way Susie is able to change her mind about Remake, maybe even not supporting them, should be the same way she views people who change their minds about the remake, like not being excited about it at first and not thinking it looks good, to, oh, actually, it kind of looks good. And the changes that Bloober Team made to the game are actually good and make me excited to maybe want to play it. Not right now, but maybe someday. If you said online that you weren't going to play the game, but then the trailers or the reviews change your minds about wanting to play the game, that's a huge problem. And what, you're not brave enough to stick to your beliefs online because you had a change of heart about the game. It's like, what the, I don't know.
That's why I'm such a huge fan of collecting classic games, and that was another that was another thing that came up when I was receiving blowback from this Silent Hill 2 remake situation. It's like, guys, I promise you, like, if you go to a retro store, if you find a retro store, you will most likely find a PS2 for not that much money, like
Yeah.
the games themselves, like it really depends on the store, like, because a lot of people know what they have sometimes, and sometimes they
Yeah.
don't know what they have. And some other retro stores, like I went to a retro game store in Portland, Oregon, just last week, called shout outs to a Video Game Wizard, that's what it's called. And
Nice.
that's just a store that has like everything, and they just want people to enjoy video games, so they're selling them at reasonable prices. So like I went to that store and I was like, oh, I can buy a PS2 and Silent Hill 2 on PS2 for like $150, like all together.
Yeah.
A few moments later.
Until people sort of, got it in their heads that Silent Hill 2 was sort of one of, the big games for the system, copies were all over the place. It's not a rare game. But I have not been into a shop and seen a copy of Silent Hill 2 that wasn't like, again, like over $150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A few moments later.
I used to be way more like original hardware elitist about that stuff, but I've definitely loosened up about it. Like, just because like the prices they're just getting so insane online. It's like how can I realistically expect someone to actually like drop $300 on something?
Now, someone in their podcast earlier made the point that with the remakes, they should bundle in the original game. And I think that's a great idea. Or at the very least, have the original games of the store. They talk about this in the podcast, and I agree. But it felt like you guys should buy the original game and go and buy a PS2 instead of buying the remake. Which, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that already have a PS5 and want to try the remake because they want to try the game with the new graphics, the DualSense features, and new fresh gameplay. That's why people are excited about remakes, is because of everything new that's about it, bringing their old beloved games to new hardware, new graphics and everything. That's the appeal of remakes. And kind of telling people, yeah, but you could play the original. Like, I mean, of course you can play the original, but that's the intrigue. Is everything I said is the intrigue of why people want to play the remake.
I can have a space for my opinions, and not
It's been
get-
cathartic after how angry
Always.
the internet has been.
I know, and like I hope I hope people are able to kind of see where I'm coming from a little bit better when the dust settles, and maybe
Yeah.
because like I've experienced a lot of toxicity in the past couple of days. People have been saying some really wild things to and about me
Yeah.
as a
Christ.
person, but I don't hold it against anybody. I am live and let live. If you apologize to me, I will accept your apology. If you don't, that's fine too. I don't mind. If you're looking forward to the Silent Hill 2 remake, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, that's it.
Before we wrap up this video and my thoughts at the end, I do want to go over some of the YouTube comments, as they had some stuff to say about the situation, and like I said, I always like delving into other people's opinions. So this is what one person in the comments said: been following Susie for years now and really enjoy her content. With that said, even if it was meant to be a fleeting comment, there are a few pieces that unfortunately added up poorly. Having Capcom serve up remake after gorgeous remake, and coincidentally saying enough of this when Konami steps up just rubs it the wrong way. Capcom have had it in the bag for decades, now to a point they can put out a remake every year and we eat it up. Konami, on the other hand, have to shift heaven and earth to regain the players' trust after they royally messed up 10 years ago. For this reason, I feel this is their chance at redemption, and she's deciding now it's time to pass. In regards to Akira Yamaoka and being nonchalant, it's likely due to her comments during the initial Silent Hill 2 transmission, passing over his interview and muttering, "I get it, you're really good at throwing a brick into a washing machine." I sadly took it a little too harshly at the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack. Is one of my favorite albums that got me through some hard times.
I don't want to fast forward to the next part. I want to see my friends. Are those developers? Here, let me see. I don't really care what Yamaoka has to say. All right, bro. Yeah. You're really good at throwing a brick in a washing machine. I get it.
Another user wrote, if Susie had said, "I don't like the way the remake looked, so I'm probably not going to play it," I think there wouldn't be an issue, but the way she phrased sounded a little too holier than thou, and this fandom especially had been craving for a win for a long time. Also, I had an issue with one of her replies saying people supporting the remake are blind consumers because everybody hated it when they revealed the first trailers, and I mean, Susie, people are allowed to change their minds. That rubbed me off in a bad way. Other than that, I think this controversy is extremely stupid. So many people defending Susie are missing a vital point. By saying she is tired of remakes, she has now backed herself into a corner. Whereas now, hypothetically, if a Dino Crisis remake or Code Veronica remake, or maybe even a Parasite Eve remake got announced, she won't be able to cover those without appearing hypocritical. Another user wrote, Susie expected the Silent Hill 2 remake to review badly, which is why she suddenly got tired of remakes just before its release. Now that reviews have come out, actually an amazing game, she will be missing out because she has to stand on what she said. Alright, now I'm going to give my thoughts and opinion on this situation. I kind of talked about it a bit in this video and the last video. But let me make one thing clear. There should not be any threats or harassment made towards Susie. That's completely stupid and dumb. And those types of comments and people targeting her over that and making verbal threats, it's just bad and irresponsible. And that's completely unacceptable. And people that are doing that to her, I mean, you're not doing anything productive in this situation at all. Putting that all to the side, a lot of this situation could have 100% been avoided, and I think a lot of the wording of her tweets, even these tweets I'm about to pull up, these tweets right here, they did not do anything to kind of slow the... They did not do anything to slow the controversy down or the situation. They made the situation worse by posting tweets like this. It's just making the situation worse, and I think a lot of the comments that Susie made just made the situation blow up to the degree that it did blow up to begin with. There's definitely a good conversation to be had here about remakes and remasters, and, you know, I think there are rightfully so many reasons to be worried about companies remaking games and remastering them. As I pointed out in the last video, the Silent Hill HD collection, and another good example is the GTA Definitive Edition, and how they remastered, quote unquote remastered, and made that the definitive edition, and basically removed the older games from all the store pages and put the remaster as the only way to play those older games. And situations like that need to be called out. I think to ultimately rule out remakes and just say that there's no point in them. There was even a comment in my last video that kind of talked about how Silent Hill 2 didn't need a remake, Resident Evil 2 didn't need a remake. However, there's a lot of people that would say to the contrary, but this situation could have been avoided if Susie had handled the response of her tweets better. But anyway, what is your guys' take on all this? Leave it down in the comments down below. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.